Successor trustees and executor, are those interchangeable? If not, what are they? And what do they do? Now, when it comes to trustees and executors, there's many similarities, and most of those come about because they are both fiduciaries. A fiduciary is a person or organization that acts on behalf of another person or persons. And they do this by putting their client's interests ahead of their own, with a duty to preserve good faith and trust. Being a fiduciary requires being bound both legally and ethically to act in the other person's best interest. A trustee is a fiduciary over a trust, and an executor is a fiduciary over a probate estate. Trustees are responsible for administering a trust to the beneficiaries according to a legal agreement, and that's in the trust. Executors distribute a deceased person's assets according to a will. However, executors must obtain a court order to act on the will that they are named as executor of. Trustees are named in a trust document to act when the original trustee or trustees die or stop acting. Usually the person who creates the trust, who's referred to as the settlor, is also the trustee to start with, and once the settlor dies or stops acting, the named successor trustee takes over. Trustees can take over management of the trust without any court intervention. The trust documents provide the procedure, and the successor trustee usually agrees to act, and once they do, then they assume the powers of a trustee under the trust documents. It's just that easy. Now, once acting, the trustee also assumes all of the duties and responsibilities outlined in both the probate code and the trust document. Now, keep in mind that the trustee is not the same thing as the trust beneficiary. The trustee does not receive the trust assets unless the trustee is also named as a beneficiary. And the trustee does not have the right to change the trust terms in most cases. Instead, the trustee must manage the trust assets according to the trust documents. Now, eventually, the trustee must also distribute the trust assets as provided in those trust documents. Executors are people named in a will to manage the probate estate after a decedent dies. However, unlike a trustee, an executor cannot begin acting until they first obtain a court order. When someone dies with a will, the named executor must submit the will to the probate court along with a petition asking the court to open probate. And this is generally done through the attorney that they are working with. Probate is a court process, and it's a process where the management and the distribution of a person's assets are overseen by the court when the decedent passes without a trust. Once the court grants the petition for probate, the court will issue an order, and with that, the letters of testamentary. Only with that court document can the executor then gather the assets together and take all the appropriate actions required to get the estate ready for distribution to the named beneficiaries. Now, although the steps seem pretty simple, the requirements and timelines of the court system and the involvement of beneficiaries not wanting to work with the named executor make the involvement of a probate attorney a very wise choice for the executor. The attorney, who is very familiar with the process and the timelines and very familiar with working with families and beneficiaries, is a very valuable asset in the smooth execution of the process. Of course, when an executor is appointed, they too take on the duties and the responsibilities contained in your probate code. And in this sense, executors and trustees are similar. They both manage assets that belong to other beneficiaries. They both are subject to fiduciary duties and obligations, and they both will be paid for their work, assuming they do not breach their duties. Now that you see the difference between a successor trustee versus an executor, watch this video on Is a Trust Really Necessary? Here to guide you through the process. Look forward to seeing you next time.